all about writing with Ben and Sarah.
Welcome to All About Writing, the podcast that covers everything about the world of writing from the inside out. This is episode 8, part 2 on our series on marketing. I'm Ben, here with my co-host Sarah, who is an award-winning author, screenwriter, editor, and TED Talk presenter.
And I'm Sarah, here with my co-host Ben, who is an award-winning best-selling author and ghostwriter, editor, and publisher. And today, the marketing, our least favorite topic, is about Instagram. And I'm only laughing about this one because as much as Ben and I have talked about this ahead of time, and I'm supposed to lead this, I don't like social media. And I think that's going to just become my mantra when we have to talk about marketing at all. I just, it's so demanding. I feel like it's another child, and Instagram is no better. It's like one more child that needs to be fed. It's a ravenous child that never gets older. It's just always sits at about 4 years old and always just needs to be fed, spoon-fed, handled, coordinated, play dates figured out. Like, it is nonstop. And I think, as in any social media, Instagram is, you get out of it as much as you think. And there are other social media platforms that we'll dive into, X, Threads, TikTok, all of those, that I think the engagement is a very different animal. Instagram has changed so much from when we first became authors. And I mean, I remember when there was no Instagram, Ben?
I do. Oh, those great times.
Remember when there was no social media? We're not that old. It just happened so fast. No, but so I guess the big thing on Instagram that most writers who are either really established or indie press or getting ready to publish their own thing, the big tag in Instagram that most writers will use to get their books out is Bookstagram. And that is a thing. And there are whole Instagram influencers who are like the old-fashioned, that's so sad. I just said old-fashioned when I'm going to talk about blogs. But there used to be blog tours with your book, and now it's like they're Bookstagram tours. And that's really the best way to engage in a broad audience using Instagram, because we're going to focus on how you use Instagram as a marketing tool. And that is really, you can put your book on Instagram or on your stories or on your feed or whatever, and tell people that you have a new book out. But you're really only going to, unless you do something that you get lucky and gets really viral, you're gonna hit a fraction of your audience, and that's it. The end. That post is now dead, 24 hours later, no one cares, they already saw it, whatever. And so using Instagram as a visual medium, both photos and mini videos now, in conjunction with working with book influencers on that channel, is the best way to utilize Instagram as a marketing tool. And I know you have a ton of questions about this, Ben, because you're not on the Instagram train as much as I am. But, the big thing to remember too is that it's constantly changing. And we're not going to talk about this in this one, but even in the past handful of months, Instagram has become, is linked to Threads, which now there's, book threads instead of Bookstagram. I mean, it is ever evolving, always organic. It'll always feel like you're playing catch up. And I think the best thing to do is just do your best with the time you have for social media, and then not break yourself or your bank over trying to reach 1,000 readers or more, whatever, using Instagram. It's kind of a supplemental visual of getting your book out.
Okay, so that's my first question. You mentioned visual. My understanding of Instagram is that it is primarily a visual medium. It's about pictures, right? Whereas like Facebook started out just writing, pictures have been added since, but Instagram from its very outset was all about images. So is that correct? Am I on the right path here with understanding Instagram?
You are, and I'm going to actually admit to something. So 10 years ago or whatever, when Instagram first started, it was an app that was paid. You actually had to pay for Instagram as an app on your phone. It was not cheap. I remember it was either like $5 or $12 to buy this app because it came with all the filters for your photos, and it was still photos that, they were still shots and you could play with filters and stuff like that. And so I bought it. That was one of the few times in my life I was a trendsetter and I paid for Instagram. And then I was like, this is dumb. I don't understand why I have this. And years later, it obviously has become what it is. But I still remember the original like vintage camera app that it was on your phone. It's a whole thing. And so yes, until TikTok and I think it was mostly TikTok really became the biggest disruptor for Instagram, but it was a still photo medium. And it was originally supposed to be beautiful photos. That was the filters. That was the original Instagram, was taking photos and kind of almost like a dark room type of vibe to make beautiful photos. And it was almost like a I don't want to, can I use the word porn? But it was like visual porn. Like you made beautiful photos and people went on there to look at beautiful photos that may or may not have been retouched. And then when video mediums, short videos really started to snap the attention of users, that's when Instagram's algorithms have started to really change and you start seeing reels or mini videos. And in the beginning, Instagram you only had a few seconds. They were very short form videos, and longer forms weren't even allowed to be uploaded. Now that has changed again. But and now actually the algorithm on Instagram actually will push down just photos, and they will over promote the videos. So and you don't even know what video will go. I have a video that has well over 1 million views on Instagram. It's like a 39-second video. I have never been able to recreate that. I don't even know like what did it. And so it's becoming more like TikTok.
Okay. Well, here's my next question. So I'm an author. I am not a photographer. So how do I make Instagram work for me? Right? I can't just keep putting up pictures of the cover of my book. So what do I do?
That's a really good question. And I would say, sometimes people change up the background. They'll put their book in unique settings, or if it takes place on a lakeside, they might take the book to a lake or on a beach, or someone reading it on a beach, or things like that. But that also can just get boring after a while. And that's where this is, connecting with Bookstagram people and either sending them your book so that they can promote it or put it in their feed and reach a different audience using a different visual, because they might have a very distinctive aesthetic that people go to watch. Oh, I love how, because they stack their books all with the spines the same color or whatever it is. But they'll also usually talk about the book. They'll talk about what it's about and whether or not they liked it or what they did like the most about it. And it just becomes these little tiny mini advertisements for you. And I think that's the best way to use Instagram now, is to collaborate with these Bookstagram users if we're using Instagram for marketing your book.
Right. And I mean, based on the purpose of this whole series, we are talking about book marketing. So we're going to assume, yes, we are marketing our books.
I know, because I know, there's going to be people listening go, well, I use it to show how I cook. Yes, you're right. Great. Awesome. Bravo. But yes, if the whole purpose for you to get an Instagram handle is to promote your books, you're going to want to engage with all these other people, and you're going to want to build a personality on Instagram. Who are you? What kind of writer are you? Are you a sci-fi writer? Do you show memes of sci-fi, characters? Do you have like every fifth post is your book, but everything in between there is like almost like a brand?
Yes, that is where I'm going with this, is that, yeah, absolutely engage with the Bookstagram people. But in the meantime, I assume that I have to maintain some kind of presence on Instagram, right? Like I have to just sort of post fairly regularly. And I'm obviously not going to post pictures of my book because that gets really old really fast. So, what do I do? Do I, as you suggested, maybe, okay, I'm a sci-fi author. So do I just grab memes from sci-fi stuff that I like, or maybe is similar to my book, same kind of, space fantasy genre? I mean, if I cosplayed, great. That's an easy source of photos, but I don't. So, I think like many authors, I'm just a dude who sits by his computer and writes stories. So, how do I capture that beautifully in photos? Like something like Facebook, at least I can write witty, pithy comments, which serves the medium that I'm good at. Instagram is a challenge because it's a completely different medium.
Well, you do write captions though in Instagram. It's instead of the caption with the photo, it's the photo with the caption under it. So you are still able to write interesting things or use Canva, which is a free service, to write witty things like with a cool background. And I think that's a great question and a good point, is that like any social media, when you're trying to sell something, whether that's yourself or a lifestyle or a product, you have to build a brand around that thing. And so, yes, maybe it's you have a habit of every Monday night, you have a cocktail and you just post a cool photo of that cocktail every night. So people know, oh, and then what you ate, what you drank. And I'm not saying this, but I'm just saying because you write quirky chick lit. And so the Monday cocktail is part of your shtick, or you I had an idea and I lost it now. See, this is why the social media thing doesn't always, but you can schedule out like, okay, every week on this day, I post this as part of my brand. And every Tuesday I do this, and every Friday I do that. And I take the weekend off, and and some of it'll be engagement with people and talking or scrolling and interacting or following people who have a similar brand or aesthetic or something like that. For me as a historical fiction writer, I might post other people's historical fiction books I like in a cool background, just to kind of keep that conversation going. It's not mine, it's somebody else's, but then that author is going to engage with me, and maybe then their audience will engage. And I'm talking about something in the brand, in the genre that I kind of want to evoke on screen. And so using it as a brand, as a one piece of your branding pie, especially if you can be consistent through your podcasts and your YouTube and your Instagram and your blog and your website. And that is the persona of you as the writer you're putting out. You're not going to show everything in your life, but if you can figure out a way to kind of create ongoing snapshots of that to help your overall brand, that's where you can do this.
Okay, so that brings up something. We have here at home, we have two Bengal cats. They have like leopard spots on them. Exceptionally beautiful cats. And whenever we take them to the vet, they're like, "Oh, these cats should have their own Instagram account." So can I augment my Instagram with like weekly photos of my cats?
Yeah,
I hear
absolutely.
cats sell
Yes.
online.
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Because people who, they might be disappointed because you might not have cats in your books that they think you might but no, I'm being silly. No, honestly, those are the kinds of things though, that if you're going to be regular about it, that's enough. It's building you as the author, and maybe that's the behind the scenes author life you want to show. And really it just comes down to consistency. They'll always tell you that, are you posting regularly and engaging with the people who comment and engaging with other new people, yourself, and the rest kind of falls into place. And don't beat yourself up about it either, right? These social media platforms, they're overwhelming. They're designed to suck you in. They're designed to almost give you false hope that you're going to get 1,000 million followers if only you post every day, 4 times a day, whatever the current number is, depending on the platform. And I think you can get really sucked into that, and your own self-worth as an author sucked into that. But I think it's just something you use as an additional facet to put out there. and put in as much or as little as you want, but know that, yes, you'll sell some books that way. You probably aren't going to sell 1 million, but you'll have a presence, and that'll matter in the end because it'll be another face of yourself as an author.
Yeah. I think you've covered some really good points here. Is one, don't kill yourself. Like if you're the kind of person who loves social media, well then great. This is your time. Get out there and crush it. But if you don't like social media, you just recognize, okay, it's a legitimate way to reach people, then I got to embrace it and use it in a way that is true to myself and is not going to make me hate myself, right? So yeah, I get that. So some of the suggestions you made there were, okay, so occasional images of the book or books, depending on how many you have. That's a good way to do it. Talking about books that are in the same genre as mine by other authors that I like, because that not only shows that I'm a gracious person who is willing to talk about other people, it also creates the possibility for engagement with those people. And just sort of images from my life, my brand, whatever I want that to be. So I have good looking cats. So my cats are going to feature there somehow, or yeah, if I'm a foodie, so this awesome meal I just had, or maybe, yeah, the fun cocktail, like you said, something about our lives that we think speaks well about who we are. One thing I've heard about social media is that, you should never try and sell anything on social media. That just doesn't work. But you're building a brand, you're just letting people know who you are. And you're a likable person. And so if they like you, then they'll be more inclined to buy your book that they become aware of just because they like you. It's kind of like making friends,
That's a great way. And if I can leave anybody with one last thing, if they're already on Instagram or thinking about it, post photos of your book, but don't tell people to buy it. Don't ask people to buy it. Don't ask people to go and download it. Not unless you have an engaged following already who's going to go out and buy it. Or even if you want people to know that you have a new release, frame it along the lines of like, I'm so excited. This is out for pre-order. I can't wait for people to read it. I can't wait to hear what everybody thinks about it. This was such a fun book to write. Whatever it is, make it more just about your joy in creating a piece of art and less about like, everybody go get it. It's free for a week, for a day. Like, yeah, you can maybe let them know, but not until you've told them about the personal connection you have to the book. It's because I've noticed this across every channel and even people who have hundreds of thousands of followers, the posts where they're clearly selling a product they've been told to, they have terrible engagement. And these are people with 500,000 followers, but when they're plugging a product, people are like, nah, I'm not even going to heart that. Like they just don't get the engagement. So don't make it about selling books, make it about making friends, like as if it was a chat room.
Yeah, wow, remember those. Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, it's true though. Like if we go to a live conference, where you're going to meet people in person, you don't go up to people and say, here's my book, buy my book. No, you just go and make conversations with people. You just talk to people and you get to know them and they get to know you and you make friends. I guess social media is kind of the same way. And it's something that if you're going to embrace it, you can put in, like you said, Sarah, as much or as little as you want, as long as you are consistent. If you only post once a week, well, at least you're posting once a week and you do that consistently. And I get it. We're all busy and some of us really don't like doing this. So until we can sort of figure out how to make it fun, it just has to be just one of the tasks that we do every week, and just be sincere about it. I think that's cool. Well, I am actually feeling, believe it or not, a little more inspired, and I'm feeling a little better about Instagram, and I think I have some ideas about how to get my Instagram, back to life. So yeah.
Good.
Any last thoughts, Sarah? Any last advice?
I know I feel Instagrammed out already now.
Okay. Well, that is our show then for today, everyone. If you enjoy listening to us, please think about subscribing so you don't miss any of our chats. And please feel free to leave a review because it really does help us a lot. You can catch up with Sarah at sarahdahlman.com and on Instagram.
You can also find Ben at bennettrcoles.com, as well as on Facebook and Instagram as well. I'm sure he'll be posting a lot more now, so you definitely want to go find him. And thank you again for joining us. And please reach out if there are any topics that you'd like us to cover. And we'll see you again when we next chat all about writing.
This has been All About Writing with Ben and Sarah.